Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. It is an absolute pleasure to have you all here today. In particular, I want to welcome Administrator Wheeler, Secretary Bernhardt, Secretary Perdue, Chairwoman Neumeyer, all of our state and local partners, members of the water sector, industry, academia. You're all in this room. We have a lot of people participating by a live feed, so thank you for sharing your afternoon with us. As a guy who began his career over 25 years ago doing research at a water reclamation plant in Southern California and trying to figure out how to turn wastewater into drinking water, it really doesn't get much cooler than this. This is a really great moment. This is a great moment for the water sector. Today we're laying a marker down. It's a moment in time where we're going to be able to look back and measure our success in how we re-envision the water economy in this country. And to get us started doing that right now, it's my honor to introduce the administrator, my boss, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Andrew Wheeler.
Thank you, Dave. Good afternoon. And thank you to everyone who've joined us today to celebrate the launch of the Trump administration's National Water Reuse Action Plan. I would like to extend a special welcome to Secretary Bernhardt, Secretary Perdue, White House CEQ Chairman Mary Neumeyer. I also like to thank Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt for his support as well. Unfortunately, the governor's not able to join us today, but he sent regards via a video address, which we will see in a few minutes. But I especially want to thank Dave and the whole water team here at EPA, all the career staff that have put a lot of time and effort into this plan. Thank you. And I'd like to also thank the career staff at the other federal agencies and departments that have worked on this as well. Thank you very much, too. As many of you may know, this year, EPA celebrates its 50th anniversary, and we deemed February to be our water month. So it is fitting that we are ending our month today with the National Water Reuse Strategy. Thank you. Since 1970, our agency has contributed billions of dollars to help communities across our nation address their drinking water and wastewater needs. And yet, water scarcity is a real threat to our way of life in many communities across America. When we look at places like Cape Town, South Africa, where day zero looms, we quickly realize that it's possible for a major city to literally completely run dry. Their infrastructure is, quite simply, buckling under the weight of demand. Many places in California experience similar water restrictions to that of Cape Town. If we wait for day zero in America to modernize our water infrastructure or seek alternatives to the use of fresh water, it will be too late. Under President Trump, our nation is looking toward innovative solutions to tackle ongoing water issues. An estimated $700 billion are needed to modernize U.S. water infrastructure over the next 20 years. My agency oversees the implementation of the Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act, or WIFIA, which established a federal loan program to accelerate investments in water infrastructure projects. In just 3 years, we have closed on 16 loans, totaling over $3.5 billion to help improve water quality for more than 20 million Americans. Combined with other federal funding sources, these projects will help finance over $8 billion for water infrastructure projects and create over 16,000 jobs. Last year, we invited 38 new projects in 18 states to apply for WIFIA loans totaling $6 billion. These loans would help finance over $12 billion in water infrastructure investments and create up to 200,000 jobs. And we have seen even greater success when agencies collaborate on programs and initiatives such as EPA's Memorandum of Understanding with the Bureau of Reclamation to support our country's water reuse and recycling projects using our combined resources to make each federal dollar go further. One of our earliest WIFIA loans was awarded to Orange County, California Water District to help finance an expansion of its reputable groundwater replenishment system. This system makes Orange County more resilient to drought and provides a reliable and sustainable water supply. Since the groundwater replenishment system came online more than a decade ago, it has produced more than 258 billion gallons of clean water. The incredible system that has been built by the Orange County Water District and Orange County Sanitation District serves as a shining example for communities across our nation. Through our National Water Reuse Action Plan, we hope to assist more communities realize their water reuse goals. In November, I had the distinct honor of speaking at the Water Technology and Environment Control Conference in Israel to discuss our priorities and progress in the U.S. I also had the opportunity to learn from our Israeli counterparts on the immense success their nation has had with its own water systems. Israel is a world leader in water reuse, reclaiming, it says here, 87% of collected wastewater in 2015, but I will tell you I met with 4 different ministers in Israel, and all 4 gave me a different percent. So they reclaim somewhere between 85 and 92%, depending on which minister you ask. In contrast to the United States, we are reclaiming only 6%, so we have a lot to learn here. Our National Water Reuse Action Plan will help our country take meaningful strides to make our country's water supplies more resilient and sustainable and secure for future generations of Americans. To be clear, this is a national action plan, not solely an EPA plan. This initiative began in October of 2018 when President Trump directed EPA and other federal agencies to invest in technology and reduce regulatory burdens to enable broader scale use of recycled water as part of the presidential memorandum on promoting the reliable supply and delivery of water in the West. It also directed agencies to create programs that encourage innovation and development of technology that improve water management. 40 of our states anticipate some freshwater shortages within the next decade, and all levels of government have a responsibility to ensure that Americans have access to reliable sources of clean and safe water. Water reuse is a strategy that can provide alternatives to existing water supplies across the nation to enhance water security, sustainability, and resilience. The benefits of water reuse can support our communities and economy, as demonstrated by the diverse partners joining us today, including representatives from agriculture, industry, water utilities, and environmental organizations. Today's announcement reflects nearly 2,500 individual engagements on water reuse challenges and opportunities. It also reflects consideration of public comments from a diverse set of stakeholders, 12 water reuse federal partner meetings, engagement with state and tribal partners, and lessons learned from 2 extraordinary convenings hosted by the Water Reuse Association with the family of water sector associations. Our National Water Reuse Action Plan exemplifies coordinated federal leadership, industry-wide cooperation and collaboration, and accountability to drive progress on water reuse today. It identifies 37 specific actions across 11 strategic themes that will be implemented by 25 unique action leaders with more than 80 collaborating partners. Importantly, the plan includes more than 200 specific implementation milestones. 50 years from now, when EPA celebrates its centennial, I have no doubt that this action plan will be looked back on as one of the greatest cross-agency achievements for our nation. I'd like to thank the President for his leadership on this important issue, and I congratulate everyone here for their collaborative efforts to advance the National Water Reuse Action Plan. I want to thank you all very much. I also want to thank you for the applause. I testified at a budget hearing this morning, and I got a much better reception here this afternoon. Thank you all for being here. I'll turn it back over to Dave.
Yeah, I really do hope you're having more fun here than you did this morning. Well, thank you, Administrator. And so we are now live. Crossing fingers. Exactly. The Administrator was live as well. The action plan, let me be clear, the action plan is now live on the website with the announcement from the Administrator. The action plan is up on the web. Our new website should be up or in the very near future. So I encourage you all, I'm getting nods. Yep, thumbs up, thank you. So I encourage everyone to spend some time after this event and spend some time on the web. Next, it's my distinct honor to introduce a leader who's charged with managing our natural resources, preserving some of the crown jewels of this country. And the administrator mentioned collaboration and the importance of collaboration. And I can tell you this is a leader who believes strongly in collaboration because we spend as much time with the Department of the Interior and their senior officials on trying to solve problems that are common to all of us in this room. They're committed to collaboration, and it has been a joy working with them. So it's my distinct honor to invite the Secretary of the Interior, David Bernhardt, to the stage.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon. Andy, thank you for giving us the chance to be here with you all today. I'm from rural western Colorado, and in the West, water is our lifeblood. Without it, we have no communities. We have no economic hope. At Interior, within Reclamation, our network of reservoirs, dams, canals, and aqueducts is a vascular network allowing us to store water for safe and reliable delivery, which is the foundation of social, economic, and environmental prosperity. Under President Trump's leadership, we are pursuing an aggressive approach, creating additional water storage, focusing on conservation, recycling, and desalination, all of which are hallmarks of a thorough and cohesive water conservation strategy. This approach has been borne out by the President's commitment really from the start of his administration. As Administrator Wheeler mentioned, in October of 2018, the President issued a memorandum on promoting the reliable supply and delivery of water in the West. And in issuing the memo, he directed us to establish a coordinated and common sense approach that would remove unnecessary obstacles to water storage, conservation, and delivery, and facilitate the necessary infrastructure improvements to get that job done. Last week, the President issued a second memorandum that emphasized the need for additional action on water. And today's implementation plan will expand the use of technology coupled with the best possible science, and together our goal is to improve the accuracy and reliability of water delivery. Our water system must continue to grow and evolve for the continued growth and development of our country into the next century. We intend to use every available tool, technology, and expertise within our federal toolkit to align across the federal water family, Interior, EPA, USDA, the Corps of Engineers, working together to provide safe, affordable, and reliable water to the American people. Tim Petty, our Assistant Secretary for Water and Science, Brenda Berman, the Commissioner of Reclamation, and Aubrey Betancourt, the Deputy Assistant Secretary, are here today. Tim and Brenda will be speaking about their efforts with this plan. But Mr. Ross mentioned something very significant. There has been a so-called water subcabinet throughout this administration, and I think they've done an incredible job of eliminating stovepipes within the federal agency. And if anything else, that is probably a hallmark of this president. Cut through the red tape, get going, and deliver results, and that is what they are doing, and they will continue to do. As Administrator Wheeler said, the Water Reuse Action Plan is really a beginning, not an end. So thank you for your time. We'll talk later.
Thank you, Secretary Bernhardt. We really appreciate you being here. And the next speaker, it's my honor to introduce, like I mentioned for Secretary Bernhardt, his spirit of collaboration and the interest in directing his people to work collaboratively across the federal family is matched by the Department of Interior and the others in this administration. And for EPA, we've had a long relationship of sometimes warring with our agricultural community. And under his leadership and under Administrator Wheeler's leadership, we've spent a lot of time trying to repair that relationship between EPA and the Department of Agriculture. And again, like the Department of Interior, the folks that we're working with, Bill Northey and others over the Department of Agriculture, have been just an absolute blessing, an unexpected blessing of this job. So with that, I'd like to introduce the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue.
Thank you, David. It's fun to play on a team where everybody plays on the same play there, right? And that's what I think we have happening here in the federal government under President Trump's leadership. And I want to commend my colleagues who preceded me, both Administrator Wheeler and Secretary Bernhardt, for really, you know, you can talk about collaboration, but when you see it work, that's what makes it fun to solve problems. And that's what, Mary, we can do in this effort and many others as we work together under the President's direction and insistence, you might understand. But anyway, David, you mentioned being from the West. You know, we used to think water was just an issue in the West and in the drier, arid areas there. You know, I'm from Georgia. Our average rainfall is 52 inches a year. And guess what? We've been in a water war with Alabama and Florida for 25 years over those kind of things. And we were laughing back in the room about it's usually that 0.5% of the time where you have shared pain of not. I remember when I was governor in 2007, we had a multi-year drought there. Our primary reservoir, Lake Lanier, there was within just a few feet of it was the primary water source for metropolitan Atlanta, about 5 million people, and we were in a few feet of the intake mechanism there, and that gets pretty serious quickly when that happens over those kind of issues. So we got a taste of the fact of what you all have dealt with for many years. Water is a finite resource, and we better take care of it. And that's really what this is all about. Learn how to use it and use it and use it and reuse it. And that's what we want to do in agriculture. You know, you can't grow stuff. You can't grow food without water. Anybody figure that out? And we're doing some cool things in ag innovation and vertical growing and all the reuses and exciting things out there. But agriculture needs water to grow the food that we enjoy. So thank you all for allowing us to participate here today in this very important topic. It's critical to farming. It's critical to the success of rural America. And we understand how critical that is in the food safety and the health of rural communities. Also depends on the safe use and reuse of water resources. So I'm delighted to serve a constituency as well as a president who's committed to making it easier for our farmers to be successful and ensure they are the most innovative in the world. I can tell you they want to do their part in the utilization of these finite resources that we are blessed with. And today's event here at EPA, Andy, is just a good example of that commitment, and we want to thank you for your leadership. David, you said something very important. I have to call attention to it. Often we know that ag interest and environmental interests were not always aligned, and it's very important for me that you recognize the fact that we are coming together and aligned in a way that is, I think, what American public expects out of its federal agencies. And I applaud your work and Andrew Wheeler's and Bernhardt and Mary's and all of our efforts in making sure we serve Americans, not just individual constituencies. You know, over the past 70 years, agriculture has been an amazing miracle here in the United States, over tripling its productivity while only increased expenses of 10% annually. And innovation really is how we've reached that level of productivity. And water reuse is going to be a huge part of how we continue forward in using our share and only our share of the finite resources that we have. So water reuse is going to be how agriculture continues to increase productivity while decreasing our environmental footprint all along. I'm proud of Matt Lohr here today and USDA's Natural Resource Conservation Service in this final action plan will utilize the conservation innovation grants that Congress has authorized to foster watershed scale pilot projects to share water information to promote reuse. You know, at their core, farmers are innovators, and creativity makes U.S. agriculture successful. And these projects inspire the creative problem-solving efforts that boost production on farms, ranches, and private forests, ultimately improving our water quality, soil health, and wildlife habitat for all of us. So through these grants, approximately $286 million has been awarded over these grants since 2004, and we're learning better and better how to utilize efficient water techniques and reuse in that effort. So we're going to be leveraging other existing programs to encourage our water reuse, obviously in the USDA rural development area and rural utility services, water disposal loans and grant program, and water and waste technical assistance and training grant programs. So going forward, we look forward to shoulder working with you guys in this effort to continue to provide both information and technical assistance to rural communities and farmers on assessing opportunities for water reuse. So farmers are some of our most innovative citizens, and I'm confident they're going to put their know-how to use to devise equipment and water reuse where it makes sense on their farms and ranches. We look forward to doing our part. Thank you very much.
So being a guy who's from the dairy state, it's just pretty cool to spend a little bit of time with the person who's charged with feeding a thriving country. So thank you for your leadership. So next, Secretary Bernhardt mentioned the water subcabinet, and the next speaker is the person who is responsible for herding that effort. When Mary calls, we come. In fact, we're scheduled to come to your office tomorrow and turn our attention, I believe, from water reuse to nutrients. And so with Mary Neumeyer's leadership, she's the chairwoman of the Council of Environmental Quality, really is spending some time, and we're talking about collaboration. You'll see that theme. That's the word is in the title of the action plan. Collaborating across the federal family, it's not possible without Mary Neumeyer. So with that, Mary, Chairman of the Council of Environmental Quality in the White House.
Well, thank you, Administrator Wheeler and Assistant Administrator Ross, for inviting me to join you this afternoon to announce the Water Reuse Action Plan. The Trump administration strongly supports developing modern, resilient infrastructure for transportation, energy, and other critical sectors of our economy, including infrastructure to better manage our nation's water resources. Water scarcity is a real and pressing issue for many parts of the country, and it is an issue the administration is dedicated to addressing. As President Trump said earlier this month, we'll use the latest science and most advanced technology to monitor and adjust water distribution in real time, ensuring that the environment remains protected while directing as much water as possible for the use of all of these communities that are suffering from a lack of water. One way to support our nation's communities, economy, and environment is by continuing to develop opportunities for water reuse to promote safe and reliable water supplies for our homes, businesses, agricultural communities, recreation, and healthy ecosystems. 1 year ago, the EPA's Office of Water announced that EPA would develop a national water reuse action plan, a plan that would not only bring together federal agencies, but would also leverage the expertise of state and local governments and municipal districts, along with the private sector. A year later, the finalized Water Reuse Action Plan is a practical example of agencies coming together to improve use of technology to increase water reliability and better manage our nation's water resources. Each step along the way, the EPA worked with numerous federal agencies who oversee our nation's water infrastructure, including the Department of the Interior, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Department of Agriculture, Department of Energy, and the Council on Environmental Quality. As we pursue practical approaches to address our nation's most pressing environmental challenges, including managing our water resources, this administration remains committed to promoting efficient and effective interagency coordination and cooperation. Thank you again for the invitation to join you this afternoon, and I look forward to working with all of you here today, along with the agencies and action partners, to implement the more than 30 actions and over 200 implementation steps identified in the Water Reuse Action Plan. Thank you.
So before I introduce our next speaker, I want to take just a moment to recognize a special guest in the crowd. The chairman of the Quapaw Nation is here with us from the state of Oklahoma, and so we appreciate your being here with us, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. Speaking of Oklahoma, next speaker I'd like to introduce, so he can introduce the governor of Oklahoma, is an alumni of EPA, a good friend, and we really appreciate him coming back. He's now off to managing 6 or 7, 8 agencies in the state of Oklahoma on the energy and the environment space. It's a fantastic leader. I really appreciate him joining us today to introduce his governor, Ken Wagner from the state of Oklahoma.
Good afternoon, and on behalf of Governor Kevin Stitt, he expresses his regrets that he can't be here. We're in a critical stage of a deadline week of our legislative session, and it required his attendance elsewhere. But he asked me to, in addition to the video that you'll see in a moment, to express sentiments on behalf of what this means and our partnerships and collaboration with the federal family of agencies means to states and tribes. Oklahoma is a unique place. We have 4 million citizens, home to 39 federally recognized sovereign tribal nations who are also citizens of the state of Oklahoma. And we rely on a daily basis on these partnerships and collaborations to preserve and protect our water resources and valuable natural resources. So more than anything, before I introduce the video, is I want to say thank you to the cabinet level agencies, certainly to the White House and Chairman Neumeyer for the White House's and the Trump administration's leadership for this collaboration that is unprecedented amongst the federal family of agency and those sub-agencies below it. Secretary Perdue, the work that the NRCS does in our state to promote soil health and preserve waters and build rural water infrastructure through your rural development programs and your forestry service is evident on a daily basis. Secretary Bernhardt, talking about our tribal nations, 39 of them that rely upon the leadership and partnership with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, not to mention Assistant Secretary Petty's sub-cabinet, the Bureau of Reclamation, and the USGS, which monitors, maps, helps us fully understand both our surface and groundwater assets. And then, of course, to my friend and mentor, Administrator Andrew Wheeler, the work that we do across all of our water agencies with EPA and the Office of Water, whether it's groundwater, surface water, drinking water, water infrastructure, we couldn't do it without you. And so while I know this is an effort that we undertake daily, this bold plan that's announced today cannot be done without all of us, states, tribes, the federal family, local governments, working in concert for these bold goals. So with that, I'm proud to introduce my governor, Kevin Stitt.
Hello, I'm Kevin Stitt, governor of the great state of Oklahoma. Water policy plays an important role across our state. It permeates our everyday life. We use it to swim, fish, hunt, boat, and it sustains life, protects our habitats, supports our industries, irrigates our agricultural lands, and is vital to our oil and gas industries. It fuels growth and is part of our very culture. In Oklahoma, we have prepared our groundbreaking comprehensive water plan entitled Water for 2060, with the goal to use no more fresh water in the year 2060 than we did in 2010. We also have a goal to assist in the audit of every small water system to find and repair leaks. Our effort to date will save hundreds of millions of gallons of water and result in the savings of millions of dollars. These are important goals that require we preserve and maximize our resources by finding beneficial uses for recycling and marginal water. We cannot meet these goals without the support of our federal partners that help provide leadership, research, scientific and technical support, as well as financial resources. We are thankful to EPA Administrator Andrew Wheeler and all of our federal partners who are leading this effort. As we collectively embark on this important endeavor to preserve and reuse all forms of water, please note that you have a faithful partner in the state of Oklahoma. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you, Governor. As the Governor mentioned, federal leadership is important, but without the states, this plan doesn't happen. Without local communities, this plan doesn't happen. This plan is for the states. It's for the local communities. This is not a federal plan. This is for the water sector. We cannot do this without our state, local, and tribal partners. So with this, I wanted to take a moment. As you can imagine, we have several cabinet officials here who are running very busy agencies, and they need to get on to some other administration business. And so before they depart, I want to thank you again, Secretary Perdue, Mayor Neumeyer, Secretary Bernhardt, Administrator Wheeler, for your leadership, for your collaboration. We really appreciate your time here today. We look forward to implementing this plan under your leadership. So thanks again. We appreciate it. And I'd also like, there are members of the press that are gathered, Secretary Perdue and Administrator Wheeler can spend a few moments answering questions outside in the hallway. So with that, I think we will get on to the next element of the program. And I want to spend just a few minutes talking about why a National Water Reuse Action Plan. So I mentioned at the beginning of this session that I began my career working in the wastewater sector, turning wastewater to drinking water. And when I had the opportunity and the honor to come back and take this position, one of the first things I did was I was curious to find out what would happen to water reuse over the last 20 years. I'd drifted away. And I was pleased with what I saw. I think the research had come a long way. The implementation had come a long way. We had deployed water reuse as a technology in many areas of the country. But at the same time, I was listening to 40 of our 50 states. You heard the administrator mention that 40 of our 50 states are anticipating some freshwater shortages in the near future, in the next decade, in places where we don't normally think about water shortages. And I spent a lot of time talking with the Department of Interior and our friends at Bureau of Reclamation and listening to what they were grappling with in the Colorado River system. And the space that we were in over the last couple of years, trying to figure out what's happening with the reservoir levels, and how do we find new sources of water. And with the Department of Energy, that we're rolling out this Grand Water Security Challenge, and what could EPA do to help that out. And so I was happy with the effort. I wasn't satisfied. I do not think we are where we need to be as a country in water reuse as a viable source of water supply to maintain a resilient nationwide water economy going forward. And so today, last year in San Francisco, we announced that we're going to do a National Water Reuse Action Plan. We had no idea what would be in it. We just committed to doing it. The goal was to work with the sector to develop that plan. We committed to working with the sector to develop the plan. Not a federal plan, not a state plan. It is actually a water sector plan. The administrator mentioned how the stakeholder outreach we did, 2,500 people, traveled the country listening to experts, reviewing literature, figuring out where we needed to go. And the only thing we knew was we were going to roll it out at the Water Reuse Symposium in September in San Diego. We did. It was fun. It was challenging. Jeff will tell you there were some moments that we weren't quite sure we were going to make that deadline. So we developed this action plan around 10 thematic themes, 46 proposed actions, rolled it out in San Diego. It was a great event, and so at that moment, we committed to then finalizing that plan within a year. So here we are, a year after we announced it, with a final action plan. I'll have to admit, when we announced it, and it was the members of the Water Sub-Cabinet were out in San Diego, and it was a great announcement, I was a bit nervous. Because we basically said, look, we'll identify the actions, but we want transparency, accountability. We want this to be an action plan, implementation plans. We needed the water sector to step up. And that was a wild concern, because what if you didn't? What if we put this plan out, we exposed ourselves, and then the water sector did not deliver? Today, I'm happy to announce that not only did they deliver, they have come out beyond our wildest expectations. We have 80 partners, 30-some individual leaders, around 37 plans, 200 implementation 200 implementation milestones. You go to the web, underneath that web, you're going to see about 250 pages of true implementation plans, transparent, accountable milestones. So they delivered. And so for now, right now, I want to hear from some of those partners who we made the call, they answered the call. And so first I'd like to invite to the stage Gilbert Trejo, the Chief Technology Officer at El Paso Water. I have been out in El Paso. I strongly encourage you all to visit. It is a super cool facility. Their technology is amazing. More importantly, their operators are amazing. I got to spend some time with their operators, the true environmental heroes. But the thing I was most impressed with is their education center. Get out there, play with their beanbag toss. I'm not going to tell you much more than that. They've got some colorful seating arrangements. Again, you just have to see it to experience it. But with that, Gilbert, why don't you take the stage?
Greetings. Thank you all so much for coming here today for the special event. And many thanks to Administrator Wheeler for inviting me to participate, and for the EPA's leadership on this important national initiative. My name is Gilbert Trejo. I am the Chief Technical Officer at El Paso Water and the President of the Water Reuse Association, a nonprofit trade association dedicated to promoting acceptance of recycled water and advocating for policies, programs, and funding that support the adoption of water reuse. Over this past year, EPA has worked diligently to solicit public input and stakeholder feedback as it developed the National Water Reuse Action Plan. The Water Reuse Association was honored to have been part of this process from start to finish, helping to gather feedback from stakeholders across a wide range of sectors and facilitate the development of joint recommendations of our water sector association partners. In particular, we would like to thank the American Water Works Association, Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies, National Association of Clean Water Agencies, Water Environment Federation, and the Water Research Foundation for their collaboration in this effort. Importantly, EPA did not limit its engagement to non-federal entities. It has also brought together federal agencies, partners to share in the information, break down silos, and align and leverage each other's resources. This kind of partnership, both across federal agencies and across sectors and stakeholder communities, will have a lasting impact and will clear the path towards significantly increasing the adoption and acceptance of water reuse in the coming years. Communities across the country are increasingly interested in incorporating water reuse into their water management strategies as a proven method for ensuring a safe, reliable, locally controlled water supply. In some communities, recycled water can create a resilient and drought-proof water supply. In other communities, may turn to water recycling to protect sensitive waterways, alleviate overburdened centralized treatment facilities, or support industrial and commercial enterprises. In El Paso, water is water, and we see the wide range of benefits that water recycling offers. We have used water recycling to restore sensitive ecosystems, irrigate golf courses, city parks, school grounds, apartment landscapes, and construction and industrial sites. We also cool power plants, and most importantly, increase our drinking water supply to build climate resilience and adapt to population growth. In addition, we are also on track to complete the design and eventual construction of an advanced water purification facility. This facility will purify 10 million gallons per day of treated wastewater that will be pumped directly into our water distribution system for our customers to drink. This facility will not only provide El Paso with a drought-proof water supply, but will transform what was once viewed as a waste product into a source of safe drinking water. It will also defer the importation of groundwater from an aquifer 100 miles away in favor of millions of gallons of water that flow to our treatment facilities every day. Over the last 12 months, experts and practitioners and policymakers around the country have worked with the EPA to identify key challenges to scaling up water recycling as a resource management tool. The Water Reuse Action Plan connects the dots and offers bold and innovative solutions to our water resources challenges. And now it's time to get to work. The Water Reuse Association offers its sincere thanks to the EPA for facilitating this process and undertaking the Water Reuse Initiative, and we look forward to implementing a wide range of important action items in the months ahead. A special thanks is also in order to Assistant Administrator Dave Ross for his vision and leadership. Through his leadership, his team was able to assemble several agencies and bring them together to accomplish the development of this action plan in a mere 12 months. A tall task, but not an impossible one, not when you have an advocate and visionary like Dave clearing the way for water for our nation. Thank you, Dave, and thank you all.
Thank you, Gilbert. So if you're do any work in the water reuse space, whether or not it's technology development, technology deployment, operational expertise, there's an important industrial partner who spends a lot of time in this space. And if you're at a water use conference, you will see the representatives there. They're very knowledgeable. They're very important to water reuse both in the United States and internationally. And it's an honor to have their participation today. And I would like to welcome Christoph Cross, the chairman of, get this right, the Water Technology Solutions of Suez North America. So Christoph and John Friedman, who's in the crowd today, spent a lot of time working with EPA over the last year, developing these plans. They deploy resources. They're operating throughout the country. If anybody can operate plants there, and you're looking to operate plants, they really are pretty expert in this area. And so I appreciate their taking the time. Thanks, Christoph.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christoph Cross. I'm responsible for the operations of Suez in the USA. Suez employs more than 90,000 employees worldwide, and the company is committed to helping customers better manage their water and wastewater resources. Suez name is not that familiar, and if I may remind you, we have been operating water and wastewater systems in North America for more than 120 years, sometimes under the name of United Water, and we took over the technology division of GE Water 3 years ago. So today we have heard from many speakers that one of this nation's most pressing water challenges is rooted in water scarcity and quality issues. Indeed, even in a country like the United States, water resources are being threatened by drought, by population growth, by waste, by the growing demand for energy, which requires enormous amounts of water. And we certainly need to build a more secure water future. The widespread adoption of water reuse can be the key to immediately and effectively mitigating increasing water scarcity. Water scarcity by itself, but also water scarcity generated by competition between users, different group of users, agriculture, industry, households. So we are very pleased to see the federal government taking a leadership role in promoting coordination across the water sector by leveraging the expertise of both industry and government to ensure the effective use of the nation's water resource. The good news is that technology exists, technology is ready, and technology is available. But in order that become totally efficient, it is important that there is also a strong policy which is implemented. If I give some examples about what I call the good news, if I look at the North American municipal division of Suez, We have been continuing partnership with cities and states across the nation. Suez increases resiliency and promotes sustainability through water reuse whenever and whatever it is possible. For instance, since 1994, Suez has played a strong role in water reuse in Southern California. In partnership with West Basin Municipal Water District, we operate a water recycling facility in El Segundo in California, which accounts for about 13% of the total water reuse in metropolitan Los Angeles. The Edward C. Little, this is the name of the facility, is one of the largest and technologically advanced water recycling facility of its kind in the United States. It produces approximately 40 million gallons of water every day, and the facility meets also the needs of nearly 300 industrial and commercial customers and exemplifies the commitment to the right water for the right use. Here on the East Coast, Suez operates Nassau counties, New York 115 million gallon per day wastewater system. It serves 1.2 million people. It is the largest public-private partnership for water and wastewater services in the US. Last year, in July, we completed the county's newest water reuse facility, the Cedar Creek Water Reclamation Facility, and now we can reuse treated wastewater in the plant's operation. As a result, the plant will preserve about 300 million gallons of groundwater each year. But yes, barriers to reuse still exist. And so, besides technology, we need policies, as I said. Having the US government taking those real and clear policy steps forward will unleash deployment of reuse technologies and lead the US to a more sustainable water future. Congratulations to the US government for this outstanding step forward. We, Suez, are very excited and ready to collaborate to implement those actions and promote a more secure water future through reused water. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christophe. And like Suez, there are many, many technology providers that will play a critical role as we implement the Water Reuse Action Plan going forward. They've been more than, Suez and others have been more than willing to share their knowledge with us. And as we get into rolling this out, developing research, deploying new technology, we will need the private sector know-how to help us implement that plan. The next speaker is from Eastern Municipal Water District in California. And if you spend time in the water reclamation space, these folks have been doing it longer than I've been alive. They are, and I truly mean that. I think they began in the 1960s, Paul, if I'm correct. Paul's the past president of the Water Reuse Association. I think you were the president when I met you. The leadership that he provided that organization is fantastic. The knowledge in this space is incredible. And so, Paul Jones, Eastern Municipal Water District, thanks for spending some time with us.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today to celebrate the launch of this first National Water Reuse Action Plan. My name is Paul Jones. I'm General Manager of Eastern Municipal Water District and also, as previously mentioned, the past president of the Water Reuse Association. As the chief executive for one of the largest water recycling utilities in the nation, I understand and appreciate how valuable water reuse can be as a tool in a community's integrated water resource planning and really the true significance of this national effort. But to start my comments, I want to recognize the leadership of the EPA Administrator Andrew Wheeler and particularly Assistant Administrator Dave Ross for his facilitating the development of this Water Reuse Action Plan. I also want to commend and recognize the broad array of federal agencies and partners and all the water industry stakeholder organizations that really came together to collaborate on this truly successful process. The result is really amazing. It's a first of its kind federal initiative that I'm confident, as a water industry professional, will accelerate the adoption of water recycling across the nation. In the arid West, water reuse has been common practice for many years, largely attributable to water scarcity challenges and the need for drought-resilient, sustainable supplies. At my agency, Eastern Municipal Water District, we currently serve a population of just under 1 million residents in one of the fastest growing and most arid regions of California, Riverside County. For decades, we've recognized that to sustain the local economy, protect the environment, and accommodate growth, we needed a smart, diversified water supply portfolio that optimized all the local available resources. This strategy was complemented with water use efficiency and what we call the ultimate form of water use efficiency, and that is repurifying both wastewater and treating impaired groundwater and putting those to full beneficial reuse and use. The result of these strategies and the deployment of innovative treatment technologies, like you heard about earlier, facilitated by numerous public-private partnerships that we're involved in, we now beneficially reuse 100% of our wastewater, with over 40% of the water demands in our 600 square mile, 7-city region met through water recycling and impaired groundwater purification. So whether it's for parks, for greenbelts, schoolyards, industries in our service area, over 10,000 acres of irrigated production agriculture, recycled water is ubiquitous, it's broadly accepted, and the cornerstone water supply for the communities and businesses we serve. But our situation's really the exception, it's not the rule. And the National Water Reuse Action Plan comes at exactly the right time, as interest in water recycling and its significant economic and environmental benefits are now receiving national attention. The Water Reuse Action Plan, complemented by broad societal acceptance that we're seeing of recycling practices, is a well-timed impetus for advancing water reuse as a vital component of water management across all regions of the United States. Let's remember that water recycling is not an emergency measure to be taken when the drought arrives. Investment in water reuse builds communities that are modern, sustainable, ready for families to flourish, businesses to grow, with the added benefit of assuring a drought-proof supplies of high-quality water in the face of changing climate conditions and extreme weather events. I was present a year ago in San Francisco when Assistant Administrator Ross announced the launch of this collaborative EPA-led effort to develop this very visionary action plan, and I must say it has been absolutely that, a truly collaborative endeavor, and I want to thank you, Dave, for that very much. And now, as we move forward towards implementation, I want to personally thank Assistant Administrator Ross for his extraordinary leadership on this, and I want to also assure our federal partners that the national water sector advocacy and research organizations, the municipal water utilities, our state government colleagues are all fully committed, and we are all in advancing this ambitious and visionary plan. So again, thank you, EPA, for both facilitating this endeavor and for the opportunity to work in partnership on this plan, and thank you all for the opportunity to share a few words today. Thank you.
So if you're a community that's just beginning the journey into water reuse, one of the focuses of the Water Reuse Action Plan is to provide examples and leaders so that you can go learn from them. And so Christoph and Gilbert and Paul are some of those leaders that are willing to share their time and expertise. This is a sector that is not reinventing the wheel. The goal is to try to just get down the road as fast as we can, as smartly as we can. And so take the time to learn from the experts who've already been there. We have 80 partners in the action plan. I would love to have 80 speakers up here talking individually about what they're working on, but that might run a bit long. And so what we're going to do is we just have a video of 4 other partners who have committed to implement the action plan to give you a flavor for what you'll see in the action plan when you go online and see it. So if we can roll the video.
I'm Pat Sinacropi, Executive Director of the Water Reuse Association, and the Water Reuse Association commends EPA for taking bold action to advance water reuse across the country. Our members are excited to work with our colleagues in the water sector to implement action items that will help communities and businesses adopt water recycling practices. Specifically, water reuse will be focused on developing an inventory of state-level policies and regulations that support water reuse, establishing an award program to recognize achievements in water reuse by America's leading businesses, and promoting resources for building a skilled water reuse workforce.
Hello, I'm Paula Kehoe, the Director of Water Resources with the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. Since 2012, the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission has supported the implementation of decentralized on-site water treatment systems within buildings and neighborhoods to produce non-potable water for toilet flushing and irrigation uses. And for the past 5 years, the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission has chaired the National Blue Ribbon Commission for on-site non-potable water systems to establish protective public health water quality benchmarks and model regulations. We've been working with 14 states and the District of Columbia. We look forward to working with and supporting the U.S. EPA on its Water Reuse Action Plan to develop additional research and tools for the implementation of on-site non-potable water systems.
Hi there, my name is Adam Krantz. I'm the CEO with the National Association of Clean Water Agencies, NACWA. I just wanted to congratulate EPA and our fellow water sector stakeholders on the Water Reuse Action Plan. It is a terrific and visionary plan that will help to secure the place of water reuse across this country, I believe, for generations to come. NACWA is particularly proud of its role that we will be playing specifically on the connection between water reuse and the pretreatment program. I believe it's Action 2.2.4. We're going to be convening a group to discuss the nexus between water reuse and pretreatment issues at our National Pretreatment Workshop, which is taking place in Nashville from May 13th to 15th. So that will be one of the milestones that we will hit in terms of ensuring our role in the action plan progresses smoothly.
We here in Israel are excited to cooperate with EPA on the U.S. National Water Reuse Action Plan. We are proud to facilitate wider U.S.-Israel collaboration and to explore opportunities for technical exchange and business development. We look forward to hosting a U.S. delegation in May and to participating in the Water Reuse Symposium in Denver this September. Congratulations and good luck to all of us.
Good luck to all of us. I just love that. So if you're about to begin a journey, it's usually wise to spend some time learning from those who've walked the path before you. And Israel truly is an international leader. They have been more than willing to share their knowledge and expertise with us. They're a great friend, a great partner, and we look forward to working with them going forward. And spending some time with the Israeli delegation throughout the past year, we've also, I think maybe the number one surprise and the most pleasant surprise that I had out of this effort was the engagement and the interest by our State Department. I didn't see it. As we were developing this, I thought about, how to learn from the international partner, but to actually engage with the State Department to help. The United States spends a lot of time, we think it's, sharing our knowledge internationally, and the State Department is the organization that leads the charge in doing that. And so in developing this plan, I was so pleasantly surprised that the State Department has stepped up and is basically going to help take the rap global. And so with that, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for the U.S. Department of State, Marcia Bernhardt. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Marcia Bernhardt, and I lead the U.S. State Department's Bureau of Oceans, International Environmental, to distinguish us from that other organization, and Scientific Affairs. I want to thank you, Assistant Administrator Ross, for inviting me to be here today to take part in celebrating the launch of the Water Reuse Action Plan and the great work that RAP partners are doing to promote water security. Over the last century, the global population has been increasing, but water use has been growing at twice that rate. Right now, nearly half the global population lives in a country where water is a scarce resource at least 1 month per year. In 2017, President Trump launched the Global Water Strategy, which aims to increase water security around the world, especially in strategic countries where water needs are greatest. Nationally, the RAP is a roadmap to U.S. water security. The U.S. Department of State is excited to take the RAP global as a tool to raise awareness about water reuse around the world. By encouraging partner governments to adopt water reuse policies, management approaches, and new technologies, many of which were made right here in the United States, the State Department is helping to implement the President's Global Water Strategy. And through our outreach efforts, all of the people and agencies who contributed to the RAP are also helping to make other nations more water secure. In the State Department's RAP Action Implementation Plan, you'll find 15 actions we are committing to undertake. Today, I'd like to highlight just 2 of those actions. First, through the Ambassador's Water Expert Program, or AWEP for short, we send American water experts abroad to share knowledge and best practices. We also have visitor exchange programs that allow us to bring water managers from other countries to the United States to learn and observe how we reuse water. Second, in celebration of World Water Day, we are hosting an interactive webinar featuring U.S. water reuse experts. Some of our embassies will host watch parties where participants will be able to ask the experts questions in real time. Our webinar will therefore have a global reach, but will also be viewed by others around the world via social media. In closing, we are very excited to partner with the EPA, federal partners, local partners, and all other important RAP contributors to greatly increase water security. We are looking forward to more collaboration with you and our other partners over the next year and well beyond. Again, congratulations to the EPA, and thank you for helping us help to put America's best foot forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, did you hear that? 15 actions. Once you get on the website and take a look at the online platform, this isn't just about naming an action. It's about an implementation plan that partners are committing to, transparent accountability. And so thank you for leading the charge to take this global. At this stage, we'll talk a little bit more about some of our federal partner commitments. And to do that, I'd like to welcome what began as a colleague, and then a collaborator, and then a partner, and finally a friend. Someone we spent a ton of time together trying to work together to solve some of America's more challenging water reuse, water resource problems. Dr. Petty, from the Assistant Secretary in charge of Water and Science at the U.S. Department of Interior. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, David, so much, and everyone being able to join us this afternoon. It's actually my privilege to actually take a few minutes, and I'm going to be bringing up different people that would really be part of what actually even Secretary Bernhardt called about the water subcabinet that's under the leadership of President Trump and Mary Newmeyer at CEQ. And this is a group, not only do we get together on a regular basis, but we actually get together for one purpose, which is to work with one another so that we can identify who's going to take the lead and how each of the other agencies are going to help them to be successful in what it is that their issue is. And so first of all, with the Department of Interior, I'm going to take a second, and Dr. Jim Riley of the U.S. Geological Survey, who's part of our team of water issues, is an integral part, and a big aspect of that is that information. And within this reuse action plan, it talks about the importance of the information and the distribution of that federal information in cooperation. And that is an integral part that's within Interior. You'll be hearing a little bit more, and I'll let Commissioner Berman of Reclamation comment on her parts. But it's really vital, and even taking a few minutes with the other secretaries at a interview aspect with some of the reporters, we talked about how all of the agencies come together to work together to solve it. And with water reuse, it's not any one individual agency. And I'm so proud of what David with EPA has actually been able to do with implementing and moving forward this action plan within 1 year. He and his team have done an incredible lift to make this happen. So thank you, David, for that. So with that said, what I'd like to do is just one at a time bring up not only my friend, but a real co-worker, which is Daniel Simmons. He is at the Department of Energy. He's the Assistant Secretary of EERE, and he can explain a little bit more of the work that he is doing within the specifics of DOE, of how he's integrating what this action plan calls for. So Daniel, I'll give it over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you very much. As Tim mentioned, my name is Daniel Simmons. I'm with the Department of Energy. I lead the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. And I guess one question, one very simple question could be is what does the Department of Energy care about water reuse? Obviously, water really matters for energy, but does why reuse? And the answer is, should be pretty clear. Given all of the water requirements for energy, anytime we can reduce those requirements, anytime we can reuse that water, it just gives us a lot more opportunities of what we can of how we can use that water as efficiently as possible. Plus, one of the things, anytime that we're talking about water reuse, is possibly the need to transport that water. Transporting water, as long as it isn't by gravity, is very energy intensive. So the Department of Energy cares a lot about water reuse. One of the ways that we're supporting the Water Reuse Action Plan is through our Water Security Grand Challenge. And this challenge is a White House-initiated, DOE-led initiative that's advancing technologies and innovations essential to meeting global need for safe, secure, and affordable water. So we have 5 real goal areas. The first is to launch desalination technologies that deliver cost-competitive clean water. Desalination is obviously an incredibly important area for reuse in the future, as well as for clean water today. 2, to transform the energy sector's produced water, such as from oil and gas production, from a waste to a resource. 3, to achieve near zero water impact for new thermoelectric power plants. 4 is to double resource recovery from municipal wastewater. And 5, to develop small modular energy water systems for urban, rural, tribal, national security, and disaster response settings. So many of the things that are a part of our Water Security Grand Challenge fit right into the Water Reuse Action Plan and what we're trying to achieve. Our largest, the largest thing that we have funded as part of that is the Energy Water Desalination Hub, which, if Congress appropriates money, as they claim they will appropriate money, it'll be a $100 million effort over 5 years. So that is really looking about how to advance desalination technologies to really reduce the energy cost, which really translates into the dollar cost of desalination. Also looking at a couple other areas specifically on desalination, around solar desalination, as well as improving wastewater recovery. You can do resources from recovering resources from wastewater. You can do that here in the district. That they do a fantastic job, but it takes a gigantic plant to be able to do that cost effectively. So how do you do that at small plants? How do you do it at medium-sized plants? That's what we're working on. So we're doing a number of activities, and just really wanted to be here today to support EPA and the rest of the federal family at advancing water reuse. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. The next person actually that I want to bring up that deals with a real theme within the action plan, the reuse action plan, is this national water integration. And there's nothing that says that more than the U.S. Army Corps. So today I want to bring up Ryan Fisher. He's the Principal Assistant Secretary. R.D. James, the Assistant Secretary, isn't able to join us, but I guarantee you it's Ryan who's always right by our side, working with us along with David and I and so many others on the team to really integrate what it is that this is about. And before I bring Ryan on, the integral part that I think is critical about the water reuse, it's the Army Corps' mandate is to flood control. Their goal is to dump water. Bureau of Reclamation's mandate is to store water for use. And so it's an interesting aspect where Congress mandates us to be in constant conflict with one another, but yet it's the federal government and it's people like Ryan and Commissioner Berman that says, no, we have to be working hand in hand to integrate water. So Ryan, come on up. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, these competing uses certainly highlight the need for a plan like this and why we all need to work together to get this right. My name is Ryan Fisher. I'm here on behalf of my boss, R.D. James. He's the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works. He always likes me to remind folks that the Army is a water resource agency. We are probably known for our day job of fighting and winning wars, but yes, we also have a water resource responsibility as well. You think about just the past 2 or 3 years, think about some of the things we've done, restoring power grids in Puerto Rico, returning flows to the Everglades in South Florida, Houston, Hurricane Harvey, the thousands of blue roofs installed by the Army Corps of Engineers there. We did the debris cleanup mission, Sonoma County wildfires in California and the mudslides there in Southern California. And that's not to mention just the routine stuff, right? 700 some multi-purpose reservoirs that we operate and maintain around the country. Another 200 plus locks and dams that are used to move American grain and American energy projects out to market and continue to spur this economy. So, what is the Corps' role here in this water reuse action plan? We essentially, my boss wanted to be a part of this because we want to be a good partner in these things. He's put a focus on partnerships, and that not only applies to our non-federal sponsors, those folks that are cost-sharing with us on flood risk management and navigation and ecosystem projects, but also our own federal family. The data sharing we're doing in this water subcabinet has been a big deal. Tim was exactly right. We think that by working together, sharing data, and speaking with one voice, that we are being a better partner to states and locals that are working with us. Specifically, there's really only a couple things I want to cover here. And water reuse action, right? The Corps of Engineers has a regulatory mission and a civil works mission. On the civil works side, we've essentially, this plan allows us, we can now consider water reuse features as a part of our feasibility studies, right? Congress authorizes us to do these studies and partner with non-federal sponsors to build flood risk management, navigation, and ecosystem projects. We can now consider water reuse features as part of those congressionally authorized projects, and I hope that'll be the case, and you'll see some good progress in that front. On the regulatory side, many of you may have applied for nationwide permits in the past. It's our intent, implementation is a big part of this plan, it's our intent to add water reuse as a nationwide permit. There's 50-some of these permits. We think that adding nationwide permit for water reuse will allow the projects that you're working on to be streamlined, expedited, get to implementation faster, which will be good for all of us. So that's something to look forward to. Will be an interagency review, and hopefully this summer you'll see some final products on those nationwide permits for water reuse. This is a great plan. Dave Ross, especially thanks to you for spearheading this event. You've been great to work with on this and many other efforts. We look forward to being part of this at the Army, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much, Ryan. The next guest I'd like to bring up is Commissioner Brenda Berman. She's the Commissioner for Bureau of Reclamation, a PARD Bureau of Department of Interior. Secretary Bernhardt is very proud of the work that is being done out west, being a Westerner, but even more so with the Commissioner and her long history of the West. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to the Commissioner.
Good afternoon. First of all, I just want to say it's an incredible opportunity to be part of the Water Subcabinet and all the different efforts we're trying to move forward. And David Ross, I've watched you from the beginning be so passionate about this subject and just drive us and drive us. We are going to get this done. And I just find that so important, and it's great to be part of it. For those of you who don't know the Bureau of Reclamation, we're part of the Department of Interior. We were created back in 1902 by Congress and President Theodore Roosevelt. And he said, go out to the dry West, where we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the projects, and work with communities and build water projects. Make water reliable in the West so that they can have the economic, the social, the environmental resources that the East Coast does. And we fast forward almost 120 years later and look at the West. It's one of the fastest growing areas of the United States. We have so many incredible major cities, incredible agricultural development, just incredible rural populations that are out there growing food and moving forward for the country. And when we look at that, that's been our job. Our job is to invest in that infrastructure, work with those communities, make sure water is reliable. Well, a little over a year ago, at the end of 2018, President Trump put his focus on Western water. And he sent a memorandum to his cabinet members, many of whom were here today, and said, we're going to make water in the West more reliable. And I think that's the first time that's happened since probably John F. Kennedy. And when we look at that, we're in the 21st century now. So we know it's not just about building dams. We know it's not just about keeping up our infrastructure, though we're absolutely doing that, or just about investing in conservation, which we're absolutely doing that. We've been working with our partners across the West on water recycling, on desalination, on so many of these tools. And what I think is incredible about working in the Water Subcabinet is, you heard Assistant Secretary Simmons. There's $100 million at Energy to look at desalination. You've heard Mr. Ross. What an incredible opportunity we have here to focus on water recycling. How are we going to do it better, faster, smarter? So we've always had our smaller program to work with kind of a lot of those urban areas who are putting in water recycling. We're proud to be part of this action plan. You'll see us in a few different places in there, but we're focusing in on our research. Over the next year, we're going to put together our research roadmap. And we're going to look at what is missing out there, maybe because it's not as interesting to private development, but maybe there's another reason something's not getting done. But we'll put that roadmap together, working collaboratively, and we will see what needs to be invested in. So please look out for that. Again, excited to be part of this. This is a 21st century answer to so many different water problems. So looking forward to diving down and working even harder. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Commissioner. And the last one that I want to bring up is U.S. Department of Agriculture with Matt Lohr. He is the Chief National Resource Conservation Service, but a real part of what makes water so important. And we heard Secretary Perdue talk about if water isn't available, crops aren't going to be grown. And so those are an integral part of how not only the commissioner is wheeling water to the locations, but then it gets it to the Department of Agriculture that utilizes it for our economy and our growth and for food for our nation. So with that, Matt, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction. My name is Matt Lohr. I have the great honor of serving as the Chief of the Natural Resources Conservation Service within USDA, but I also have the honor of being a fifth-generation farmer from Virginia. So as someone who's spent my entire life working the lands, raising livestock, raising crops, I know firsthand the importance of water. So for us, at NRCS, it is a real honor to have a chance to be on stage, to be a partner as we look at our conservation needs going forward and how water reuse is going to be such an important part of that. On behalf of my boss, Undersecretary Bill Northey, I just want to reiterate his commitment to the Water Subcabinet, David, and the work that you guys are doing, and just say it's an honor for us to be a partner in this. The vision statement for NRCS begins with a world of clean and abundant water. It's right there, first thing. We've been around for 85 25 years working with farmers to implement voluntary conservation practices and working with our communities, and water conservation has been such an important part of that over the years. And the one thing I've learned in my first year as chief of NRCS is the importance of collaboration. We certainly can't go about this alone, and being able to be a part today of so many federal agencies and partners in our states, our tribes, our associations, when that many individual groups come together for something like this, we know good things are going to happen. So we're glad to be a part of the plan, focusing briefly on 3 areas. First of all, looking at our Conservation Innovation Grant, or SIG, that the Secretary mentioned earlier. One of our selected categories for 2020 is going to be water reuse strategies, the first time we've ever focused on water reuse. So we'll have partners apply from all over the country for about $15 million in several categories. SIG focuses on innovations and technology for conservation. And what better way to have a dedicated category than water reuse? And we think it's a good idea and looking forward to being able to do that. Since SIG's inception of 2004, we've invested over $285 million with our partners working in that technology and innovation space. The other effort that we're going to be leading deals with leveraging our existing programs. NRCS has lots of Farm Bill dedicated programs and funding. We want to be able to tie as much of these programs into water reuse as possible. So we're going to be focusing on 2, CSP, our Conservation Stewardship Program, and RCPP, the Regional Conservation Partnership Program. CSP is actually the country's largest acreage-based program where we work with individual farmers to address their needs, and we want to be able to include water use and recycling as part of that. And RCPP is just what it sounds like, the regional partnership program where we work with partners over large-scale landscapes to address these challenges, provide measurable improvements and outcomes, and we think water reuse is going to be a very integral part of that equation. So we gather here today to be a part of the solution, and we're excited that we can stand with you as we look at moving forward in this and how innovation, technology, cooperation can all come together in the world of reuse, and we're excited to be a part. Thanks for all of your work and for your partnership.
Matt, thank you so much. And just for the whole kind of sub-cabinet group that gets together on a regular basis, the importance of this discussion, because it really carries the theme of what water reuse is about. It's that availability, it's that integration, it's the information. And one of the key parts that we're not able to make it if Admiral Gallaudet of NOAA, who's also part of our team, was not able to make it today. But it's that forecasting, it's the weather, it's that availability of truly kind of these atmospheric rivers that brings that continual water to us that we can use over and over again. So as you get to not only hear from a big part that works on a weekly and monthly basis with David and I, it's a fantastic group. But at any one time, we pick up the phone, we call any one of us that was up here today and talk about the ways that we can move forward and get things done. So David, a great day, a great event, but it's the beginning of working on this reuse project, and I look forward to working with all of you today. So thank you, David.
Well, thank you to federal partners to help us implement the National Water Use Action Plan. We cannot pull off the plan without our federal partnerships. So, obviously, hopefully, by now, you've gotten the sense that we're committed to this. If you haven't, we've been here for almost an hour and a half talking about the National Water Use Action Plan and our commitment to making this a reality, to strive to develop security, sustainability, resiliency in our water supply. EPA is obviously committed. In fact, if there's anything that speaks more strongly about our commitment, just take a look at what we've done already in the financing side in the WIFIA program. The administrator mentioned it earlier. But we've already put $700 million out there in infrastructure through our WIFIA Innovative Loan Program. And we have $3.5 billion in development ready to be deployed. So we are analyzing loans right now, and over the next, in the cycle, over the next year or so, we'll get out at least another $3.5 billion in federal money to help fund infrastructure on the ground for what you guys are trying to accomplish every single day. I also developed and named the first National Water Program Leader, National Water Reuse Program Leader. Brought that out of the program offices and reported it directly into myself, into the Assistant Administrator's office. And Jeff Lape, so thankfully raised his hand. Jeff's the first. Don't break it, Jeff. But it was to really get someone to focus in and lead the charge. And that's one. But one of the things that we need to do, and that's just the beginning, and I can begin to talk about other things that we've done, but I want to make sure we get down to what EPA itself is going to do under the action plan. We have committed to partnering on 19 different elements in that plan, and I'm going to read them all. No, I'm not. Just kidding. I'm going to focus on a few. One, the National Water Reuse Program Leader is the beginning of institutionalizing water reuse at EPA, and we will commit to forming that, more formally institutionalizing it as an office within the Office of Water, so that water reuse will always have a place at the Office of Water at EPA. That's one of our major commitments. The other major commitment, and then we will announce next month, we realize that we need to tap in, just like this whole action plan over the development of the action plan over the last year, we need to tap into the expertise of the outside world. And so we will be announcing a job opening we're going to hire a national water use expert, bring the person in from the outside world to help us guide our research and our technology and where water reuse needs to go inside this building. So as we institutionalize it, we want to bring in the expertise to help us institutionalize it. That's another major commitment. We also, and I don't know if I saw David Dunlap is here, I don't know if you saw him earlier, Office of Research and Development. We are putting our money, like the WIFIA program, we're putting our money where our mouth is. And so sometime in the next month or two, we're going to be announcing the development of a cooperative agreement to fund research over the next 5 years. The Office of Research and Development and Office of Water will be in the first year of financing $2 million to feed that effort. And our job is then to try to fund that subject to appropriations over the next 5 years. And so we are thankful for our research experts in the Office of Research and Development for helping us, both in their knowledge but also in their financial resources for carrying this forward. So we're committed to making this happen. But I think the number one commitment that we are going to implement, at least over the next year, is the actual action plan itself, managing the action plan. We put a draft on the street in September, and the easy thing to do would have just been taking the draft off. Go out for public comment, finalize the document, and roll it out. It was a really cool document. I was thrilled with it. It built the business case for water reuse. But that would have been the easy thing to do, Jeff. And so we decided to put that document, keep it on the web. It's important. It'll always be there to build the business case for water reuse. But we started over because we wanted the next phase to be the implementation phase, collaborative implementation. And so the next plan that is now available in hard copy print and up on the web, it's a summary of the actions, but it really is just a summary. The real live action plan is in the online platform. And, there it is. I encourage you to go up. That is the action plan. We decided, by the way, not to go live on the web. We weren't looking for, that moment. Whether or not if you're older, it's a Bill Gates moment. It's, the CEO of Tesla had an issue with live technology. So we decided just to go with screenshots. But if I invite you to go to the web on the online platform, and you will walk through both the online platform, the business case, then get into the interface. And as you walk through, you can actually get in and see the action plans. If you want to know who's leading it, their contact information's there. Accountability, public accountability, transparency. The milestones are laid out. We will then commit to updating those, at least on a quarterly basis, and we're talking about how best to do that. But engage with the website. It's there. That really is the action plan. It's the implementation plans. Jeff had it printed out on my desk, and it was like 250 pages. Maybe we shouldn't print that. We are the Environmental Protection Agency, after all. So we have a much slimmer version available, but the action plan's on the web. It's live, it's adaptive, it's organic, it will keep changing. That's the goal. Right now, we have too much EPA and not enough water sector. 19 plans, that shows our commitment. My goal is to fade EPA over time to be just one of many major partners. We've got 80 right now, we want more. There are some of the action plans, action items on there that are not developed. That's on purpose. Rather than hiding them, we put them on the web. If you're interested, you're listening, and you have an opportunity to take the lead, please contact us. We're still looking for leaders. And so over time, the goal is to keep updating this. We are already talking about the next version, and when we're going to announce that. We're talking about maybe on an annual basis during Water Week, the water policy fly-in, something like that, where we go up for public comment, we talk about it at a Water Reuse Association sometime in fall, we figure out what the next phase of the Water Reuse Action Plan needs to look like, and then we roll it out, and we keep rolling it out, and we institutionalize this going forward. That's the goal, that's the hope. That's what I'll be looking back to 10, 15, 20, if I'm still above ground. If I'm still around and I can look back, that is how we're going to measure success, is did we implement it, did we stay with it, did we do what we said we were going to do? So with that, the last thing I'd like to do is, this was a heck of an effort, and so to the members of the EPA and our federal partners in the room, if you guys please stand up right now. Jeff, your team. Thank you. It was a heck of an effort. There were times where we weren't quite sure we were going to pull it off, but you guys delivered. Remarkable. Took a lot of Skittles, a lot of candy, a lot of Coca-Cola. You should see their war room. It's hilarious. We're just going to close the door, walk away, never to use that room again. It's been well used for the last year. But we did call it a war room because we were going to battle through and hit this deadline, and we did. And so, Jeff, thank you for your leadership. To the team, thank you for doing this. But this is just the beginning. So thank you for joining us today. The goal was to end at 4 o'clock, and we're doing that. So thanks for spending some time with us today. I hope you enjoyed it, learned from it, are inspired by it. It certainly has inspired me, and let's keep it going. All right, thank you, everybody.